Never-Ending Chain by Dragon Translator. Chapter 13. Watch Your Tongue. The unknown dragons shifted to hover just at the outer edge of the farthest sea stack. A light green and white Nadder stood at the edge, wings outstretched and screeching at them. Hiccup frowned as he realized that the unknown dragons were changewings. He looked at the pod leader and his mate.
"Excuse me," he said. "I think I should see what that's about." "Of course, Land Alpha," the pod leader said. "We will take our leave. If our son returns, we will let you know."
"Sure thing." Before either squadron could slip back into the water, a blue terror that had been with the Nadder on the sea stack came at him, flying at a fast clip. The terror shifted to a hover in front of Toothless. "Alpha," the terror said, slightly out of breath. "Forgive me. The illusion scales are asking to speak with you. They say a scalding spitter is in their nest and is injured. They were hoping you could help him."
"Thank you,"
Hiccup said, then looked to the two squadrons as they lifted their heads again.
"Join me?"
he asked.
"Thank you, Land Alpha."
As they reached the group, the squadrons rose completely out of the water, hovering near to Hiccup and Toothless.
Hiccup tilted his head. "Everyone," he said, "go ahead and land on the sea stack. It'll fit us all."
The Nadder moved to the right and back as Toothless landed. The two squadrons landed to Toothless's left. The terror that had brought the message landed in front of the Nadder. The 6 changewings landed with the 4 in a half moon around the 2 in the middle.
"Hello again, Alpha of this nest,"
one of the 2 in the middle said. Hiccup smiled, recognized the voice.
"Hey," he said, "you made it home, I see."
"Good." Hiccup then tilted his head.
"The terror said you have an injured squadron in your nest."
Hiccup noted that the one on the left blinked when its male tilted his head.
"Is squadron the human name for scalding spitters?" he asked.
Hiccup chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck.
"Yes, sorry. I'm still getting used to being able to talk with dragons. I keep forgetting we both have different names for what we use."
The changewing on the left tilted its head. Its gaze flicked between the male and Hiccup. The male chortled.
"I see," he said. "Yes, a scalding spitter saved a youngling of the nest when a land shake had some rocks falling off a cliff. Unfortunately, the rocks fell upon the scalding spitter's wing. I spoke to my queen mother of your actions, and she wished to know if you could aid our guest."
"Sure," Hiccup said, before gesturing to the 2 squadrons.
"The son is missing. Do you know if the one at your nest is male?" "I believe so." "They can accompany you to see if the injured one is their son." "Thank you," the pod leader said.
"Sharp shot," Hiccup said, curling his neck.
"Please go round up the available riders."
"Sure thing, Brother Alpha." Sharpshot climbed onto Hiccup's shoulder, rising to a hover above both of his brothers. He chirped to the blue terror. The terror chittered, rising and following Sharpshot back to the nest. "The tiny fang calls you brother," the changewing to the left of the male said, its voice feminine, but also sounding musical.
Hiccup smiled. "He is my brother, as is Toothless here," he said, patting the top of Toothless's head.
Toothless lifted his head, gooing. The male changewing turned to the female.
"I told you he was different than any human we had ever known," the male said, sounding smug.
"You've given too many flights of fancy as we grew, brother," the female said. "This tale of your rescue seems like another one." She looked around. "But I see all the dragons around us, and all are watching us like warrior guards. I see 2 scalding spitters, who I know are the leaders of their pod, yet react with respect to this human. I see a spike thrower acting as if he is standing next to a king instead of a monster." "Watch your tongue!" the Nadder said before anyone could speak. "He is Alpha!" The young changewing stared at the Nadder. "You say that with such conviction in your voice." "Alpha saved us all," the Nadder declared. "He freed us from a monster. He could have driven us away after we disgraced his nest. He didn't. He forgave us and welcomed us. My little sister can fly and play in the wind without worrying she'll annoy anyone. My little brother doesn't have to live in fear that he'll be eaten due to a leg injury that occurred when he was a fledgling." Hiccup blinked, turning to the Nadder.
"Is your sister the young gold-coloured Nadder that likes to spin and flap in the air above the northern bay?"
he asked. The Nadder looked at him. "Yes, my Alpha." he said, lowering his head and spreading his wings. She and my brother were some of the last eggs laid before you freed us.
I remember her, Hiccup said. Toothless Sharpshot and I were flying over the northern bay and saw her. When she saw us, she landed upon a nearby sea stack and just laid down. It took a long time before she explained she was terrified that she was going to be punished.
That monster you freed us from demanded silence in the nest, and that no dragon fly unless we were bringing her food. Fledglings had to be taken away to learn flight.
Hiccup blinked. And you said your brother's leg is injured?
He tumbled off an edge before his wings were strong enough to hold his weight. He could never rest fully because I had to keep that monster from noticing him, and thus always moved from one den to another.
Hiccup frowned. Noticing him? He asked, though he had a gut feeling he knew what the Nadder meant, and knew that he would not like the answer.
The queen demanded perfection, and weakness was eaten to keep the nest strong.
Hiccup's eyes narrowed. His gut was right. He hated that answer. He had once regretted they had been unable to speak to the queen dragon, now that he knew dragons could speak. Not anymore. That monster did not deserve to explain why she thought her nest should be ruled like that. Sharpshot landed upon Hiccup's shoulder before he could respond. Out of the corner of his eye, Hiccup saw his brother look between the Nadder and the changewings before curling his neck so that he could stare at Hiccup in the eyes. "Which one was rude to you, Brother Alpha?" he asked. Hiccup blinked. "None," he said. "I don't think the female meant an insult by her comment."
"I did not," the female said, "and I apologize if that was how I sounded." She looked to the Nadder. "You seem young, but you only speak of your siblings. Forgive me if the question is intrusive, but where are your parents? My father was eaten just after my mother laid the clutch that contained my little sister and brother. Father did not want to leave his mate, but the queen demanded food. Father was unable to return with anything, and that monster called Mother out and made her watch as father was eaten. 4 days before the eggs were to hatch, Mother refused to go to get that monster food. Mother and 3 eggs were eaten. A rock biter who I befriended, and I held my brother and sister's eggs in our mouths to hide them." Hiccup's hands tightened around the handles upon Toothless's saddle. He felt his brother's muscles tense. He heard Sharpshot hiss. The female changewing stared at the Nadder with wide eyes. The male changewing looked as if he would kill the monster himself. The other changewings looked at each other and then stared at the Nadder. Hiccup heard several gasps and looked over his shoulder to find all the riders except for Torgir hovering on their dragons just over the water behind everyone. Each human had varying looks of disgust and anger covering their faces. Hiccup guessed they had heard at least part of the Nadder's story. "You did this world a great service by killing that fallen queen," the female changewing said, pulling Hiccup's attention back to the front. The female sighed, shaking her head. "Had I known the conditions, I would have pushed for all dragons not in her nest to kill her." The female then looked back at the Nadder. "Will you accompany us? My mother is queen of our nest. She and several warrior guards are with the Scalding Spitter. Once he is well and able to return to the sea, my mother wished to speak with the Alpha who freed my brother here. I think she would be well advised to hear your tale, young one." In answer, the Nadder looked at Hiccup. Sharpshot shifted so he was holding on to the claw holds and not in Hiccup's line of sight. Hiccup turned to the Nadder. "You're welcome to come along," he said. "And when we get back, will you please bring your brother and sister and the Gronkle that aided you to the village? I think the tribe needs to hear your tale as well." "As you wish, my Alpha." "While you are telling us this, I'll see if Gothi can help your brother." "Thank you, my Alpha," the Nadder said and bowed again. "Is this all who are accompanying you, Alpha of this nest?" the male changeling asked. "Yes," Hiccup answered. "Then allow us to be your honor guard. Our nest is soon to have hatchlings, and the parents are less than pleased about the commotion." Hiccup gestured, and the Nadder and the Squadrons rose off the sea stack. Hiccup was not surprised that Astrid and Stormfly came to hover at his left. It did surprise him that the Squadrons moved to allow that. Neither had been around when the betrothal had been struck, and had only met Astrid once. He then remembered Astrid stood at his side and held his hand, and Stormfly had chirped at the pod leader. He wondered if Stormfly had explained Hiccup and Astrid's relationship then. That would explain the Squadron's actions. The male changewing chittered and pulled Hiccup's attention from his thoughts. The 4 others moved away, coming to hover at different points around the entire group. The male looked to Hiccup and lowered his head.
Follow us, please.
End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh, that poor kid! God, I just want to give him a hug. No one deserves that. Jeez Louise. I love how protective he is of Hiccup because he sees him for the leader he is. I just love that. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.